Your first round fantasy hockey draft choice is pivotal to building a winner all season long. So, on the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, we're going pick by pick, previewing the entire first round in a 16-team league. Let's break it all down and get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. We're back inside the lab for the latest edition of your 30-minute fantasy hockey source. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I am joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Rodin, on this side of the microphone. It's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, showing love and appreciation for those everydayers who continue to hold us down and make us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. And before we get to the first round preview, you know this episode is from our friends at FanDuel. Download the app today. Visit FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager hits. Mr. Rodin, we've gone back and forth and then some, but I think that means we've got a good grasp here on the first two rounds. We do 16-team leagues and how you and I duke it out in our listener leagues and otherwise. So what we have done here is a consensus 1 through 32 selections. We'll start on today's episode with the first round, going pick by pick on where we see these players going. I believe something like that. Over to you, my friend, McKinnon, and all the way down. The point is here, I think, is arming our GMs out there with the players that we see going in these slots and the value that they could bring. Hit me if I'm off the mark, or just go with McKinnon and we'll just ride with it. But I hope your boys come back to earth a little bit here for you. Giddy up, and thanks for doing these graphics.
Yes, we have. And look, I'm excited for the conversation. The way we're doing this is we're viewing this. Again, we made our list. We got a consensus between Flip and I. So this is a ranking list of some sorts, but it's also how it should shake out in the first round. Like, just because we implement the 0G strategy and we wait for goaltenders doesn't mean that you shouldn't just pass over Connor Hellebuyck in the first round if he gets to you, because that is a good way to get the goalie categories going with a guy like that. And we'll talk about it on today's episode, but that's how we're viewing it, how each pick should go pick by pick in the first two rounds, first round on today's episode. And of course, knowing us, if you stay tuned in, which we know you are, we got Nathan MacKinnon taking the first overall pick going into the fantasy hockey season, 2025-26 season. To me, I look at Nathan MacKinnon for what he does. You look at the graphic here, 79 games played last year, 32 goals, over 115 points, a plus 25 with 38 points on the power play, a little bit of a banger beauty with the 41 penalty minutes. The shot volume for me is also what I love about Nathan MacKinnon. He gets lots of shots, lots of pucks hit the net, which increases his goal capacity, which increases his point production. And to me, he's an all-around player. And obviously Connor McDavid is also one of the best players in the game right now. It's a 1-2 punch combo right there with them at the number 2 spots. But I know most of you out there might go Connor McDavid over Nathan MacKinnon. I think Nathan MacKinnon is the best fantasy hockey option out there. His elite speed, his ability to create in the offensive zone every single time he has the puck on his stick. He's just super consistent with it. And you can even make the argument that without Mikko Rantanen on the team now, even more of a load is on Nathan MacKinnon to get the job done.
Could also perhaps be a negative angle that someone brings up, Steele, that Mikko Rantanen isn't there to quote-unquote prop him up. However, we got a lot of players to get to. So Connor McDavid is that second choice. Leon Draisaitl is the third. And I'm not trying to skip past players on you here, Steele, but I think when I look at this, the top 5 players are pretty much set in stone, in my opinion, how we see it. And I think you and I were very much on the same page.
Yes, they are.
McKinnon, McDavid, Draisaitl, Kucherov, Makar. Those are the first 5. So all I'm going to say about McDavid and Draisaitl, in my opinion, is this McDavid news that's starting to swirl, Steele, is becoming interesting to me. And I don't think it's necessarily going to detract from his fantasy value. It might actually light a fire under him. So what you saw last year 100 points in 67 games. Extrapolate that to a full healthy season, one in a contract year. You could be making a big mistake by passing on McDavid in certain formats, but in the realm we play, in that banger league and more categories, Nathan MacKinnon does bring just a little bit more value in that all-around game. However, McDavid 2, Draisaitl 3. I don't know if you want to pick up at Kuch or Makar or even at Kaprizov, which might be fitting Steele. But this is an intriguing set of players here. And now you really need to know how you think these drafts should shake out. And that's what we'll continue to do.
Yeah, I would say the first 3 picks there's a pretty big consensus there with McKinnon, McDavid, and Leon Draisaitl. It's going to be those 3 guys at the number 4 and 5 position. We also have Cale Makar and Nikita Kucherov. When we did our list, we actually had them tied with an ADP of 4.5. So both those guys, you can't go wrong at 4 or 5 here with Nikita Kucherov, a guy who's going to put up 100-plus points in a really good year. Again, power play points, 46 last year, 9 game-winning goals, over 250 shots. And then Cale Makar is really the only defenseman out there that I believe has the potential to put up 100 points in a season. And he was close last year. He got to 30 goals. He got over 90 points, 90 plus points last season. He's really the only defenseman capable as of right now. I don't think Quinn Hughes is there. That's why he's a little bit lower on this list. And funny that you mentioned Connor McDavid in the contract negotiations, because the same can be said about Kirill Kaprizov with that surprising news earlier yesterday about Kaprizov and his team turning down an 8-year, $16 million AAV deal with the Minnesota Wild. I hope it's not about the team. I hope it's not about the money. Maybe more so about the term. Maybe he doesn't want to be there maybe he doesn't want to be locked in for 8 years. But
yeah,
as a Minnesota fan, that hurts me. But he still comes in at the number 6 spot. That is where I believe we believe Kirill Kaprizov should be drafted. Again, even though there are some injury concerns with this player over the last couple of years, he's a point-per-game player. He has the 100-point potential, which he did in the past back in 2021, but 56 points in 41 games played last year. I think he's just an all-around talent, a guy that can easily put up 50 goals, 50 assists on a very above average team in Minnesota.
Yeah, and the offense in Minnesota clearly an issue. However, it might be even more of an issue in Boston. David Pastrnak comes in here for us at the 7th slot. And, this is nothing to detract from David Pastrnak, because 113 points 3 seasons ago, 110 2 seasons ago, and 106 last year. And I know the Boston Bruins traded away a bunch of parts at that blue line. This team wasn't good last year, and he still put up 106. So I don't think I'm going to have the confidence or the cojones to come on here and say that number is going to dip significantly. I could see it, but I'm not going to bank on it, because he is just far too good. He has probably the best or the second best release behind Auston Matthews in the NHL. The shot 100%. Total was down last year, down to 319 Steele, which is another bit of a concern. And I think if it not for a bit of an up and down year from Matthews with some injury concerns, I could swap 7 and 8 here and put Auston Matthews higher. And that might actually happen in some formats. And I wouldn't actually hate, furthermore, and I'll turn it back to you because we got a lot more players to get to, I wouldn't actually be shocked if Mikko Rantanen went even a spot higher than David Pastrnak in certain formats, because he does bring you a little bit more peripheral love. And his team in Dallas, just the team concern, is so much better. I think he fits here at 7 for that pure individual goal-scoring talent, but I don't think 100%. I would hate it, Steele, if you or I had him here at 8 or 9th, because I think if you are that person who wants to invest in a Rantanen or a Matthews just ahead of Pasta, I'm not going to hate on you too much, but that's my take on it.
Yeah, there's really no right or wrong way to look at it. You can do many things throughout the season to have a very successful team. And again, we talked about drafting wingers a little bit early. There's nothing wrong drafting Mikko Rantanen, who probably has, I believe he has that dual eligibility as well, ahead of a guy like Auston Matthews. I believe David Pastrnak only has that left wing eligibility going into the season. But right there, like we said, the first 3 spots are pretty much set in stone. 4, 5, and 6 are set in stone. And the same thing can be said for 8, 9, and 7, 8, and 9. You can kind of interchange them a little bit. We're going to come back after the break, speak a little bit more about Auston Matthews and Mikko Rantanen, but we still have the rest of the first round to talk about and break down exactly why we have them put in these positions.
And tomorrow, perhaps a more interesting conversation, Mr. Rodin, is that second round of 16 players that you guys are going to want to have your finger on. You're also going to want it on the FanDuel Sports app. The NFL is here, baby, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. And right now, new customers that bet $5 and have their bet hit, $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You know, Steele and I love those same-game parlays, the in-plays, the future bets, the fast payouts. FanDuel, they have your back. And right now, that offer is too juicy to pass up. If you're ready to play, download the app today by visiting FanDuel.com and get started. That's FanDuel.com and get that first $5 bet in.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Rodin, breaking down exactly how the first round of your fantasy hockey draft should go this upcoming season. Auston Matthews at the number 8 overall pick here in the first round. Last year, 67 games played, 33 goals, 78 points. Obviously, we know it was a down year for Auston Matthews, dealing with significant injuries. But when you look at him being probably the best pure goal scorer in the National Hockey League when he is healthy, that transcends him and makes him such an elite player. And obviously, again, with like Kirill Kaprizov, you have to take into consideration the injuries he has dealt with over the span of his career.
I agree.
But again, regularly amongst the leaders in shots on goal and goals. If you're in a league that has face-off wins, he's very good in the face-off circle. Potential for 60-goal season again when he is healthy. Plays with elite line mates. We talked about Matthew Nyes and the potential of a breakout season for him this upcoming year as well. William Nylander, we're going to talk about in the first round too. John Tavares on a team-friendly deal. Even without Mitch Marner, Auston Matthews is one of the best players in the league. And when he's fully healthy, and we expect him to be fully healthy, he cracks the top 10 of your first-round draft picks.
And let's not forget, he had been progressing nicely in that 200-foot game. You've heard it from both Steele and I before. And throw some credit on Auston Matthews' name for that, because you know, you go from 92 hits up to 92 block shots, 93, 89. He is going to be right in there at 100 block shots. You saw that hit total kind of teeter off last year down to 45 from 90. That's the physical side of him not being healthy. If you're not feeling healthy, you're not throwing your body around. This isn't rocket science. I think there's a huge value in Auston Matthews this year. There is also a lot to prove for Auston Matthews. So we're kind of at a precarious tipping point with this player steal. We know Mitch Marner going is an issue. Is it going to be with his fantasy value? We will soon find out. Mikko Rantanen, I think this is kind of like a steady as she goes pick here, Steele. I think perhaps not as sexy as in years past because he has been pulled away from Nathan MacKinnon. He's going to play with Rupe Hintz, probably. He's going to play with Jason Robertson. He's going to play with Thomas Harley on that top power play. I know that's not Cale Makar, but these are still really good players. And I think a lot of people might be overlooking him. If I have the 9th spot where we have Mikko Rantanen and all these other guys that are already gone, I am for sure taking Mikko Rantanen at the 9th spot. The Dallas Stars are going to be knocking on the door as one of the best clubs in the NHL. All of those things, I think that's a relatively safe play. I do see some of these outlets out there talking about a regression from Mikko Rantanen. I don't know why that's a breakdown. I love Mikko Rantanen at the 10th spot.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at what he did and accomplished last season, like obviously came up short in the playoffs, but just beast in the postseason, just based on the regular season, 18 points in 20 games with Dallas, goes into the postseason, puts back-to-back hat tricks, I believe in that second round, and just the instinct and ability to really just get going and find that chemistry early with his new teammates. So, people have been sleeping on Mikko Rantanen. I don't think that will be the case this year. And again, just what will the difference be like for both McKinnon and Rantanen? Again, they're still playing
for
with
a full season.
with elite players. I mean, Nathan MacKinnon still has a guy in Martin Necas who's a little bit underrated as well, but it's going to be weird seeing them for a full season without each other. At the number 10 spot, probably one of my favorite players to draft. It's Brady Tkachuk. If he falls into this area of your draft in the first round, you got to jump on a player that has the potential to put up 70 points in a season. Obviously, it was a down year, back down to 55 points in 72 games, but the 2 seasons prior to that, he put up 83 and 82, 74 and 81. He has the potential to do that once again. He is the banger league beauty of all banger league beauties. 123 penalty minutes, 228 shots, power play points 23, shots on goal 296. I mean, this guy literally fills all peripheral categories, maybe outside of blocks, but even blocks, 30, 40 blocks here and there. But outside of that, he gets the job done in every single category. One of my favorite players to draft. And if I somehow land that 10th overall pick, I'm jumping all over Brady.
Yeah, most definitely, Steele. Take in this, though, as well. When you're looking at this Ottawa Senators team, when they're on their game, this is a very, very good power play squad. And, at times they do struggle. And I think that's just a case of a young team kind of having growing pains still. They finished 11th in the NHL last year in power play proficiency at 23.8. And Brady Tkachuk is anchored on that top power play unit. He is not going anywhere except for the front of the net to clean things up, to bang in power play goals. And that really elevates his value for me. Drake Batherson, Jake Sanderson, Timmy Stutz, probably Dylan Cousins in there in the mix. It's a very good power play. And 11th last year, I think, is just scratching the surface. So there is so much value. How about Brady Tkachuk? 4 goals, 3 assists in 6 games against the Leafs in the postseason. If he brings that energy, 30 hits in 6 games, he will be a steal of a selection at 10th, especially in our formats which count the PIMs and the hits and I know not blocks, but those banger leagues. So much value. And you and I are both been very high on Brady Tkachuk. I'm going to turn Jack Hughes over to you, though, because I think I had him perhaps a little lower down than you. I don't fully remember. He falls in here at 11th. I probably would have put Jack Eichel higher. Hit me with your take here. I don't know. I'm just worried about his health. That's the only angle, because otherwise he's a stud.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the only angle you can look at Jack Hughes. When he's healthy, he's one of the most skilled guys in the entire National Hockey League. His ability to create in the offensive zone is almost unmatched as well. He's in that, same tier as guys like Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon, who can just really transition the game with his edge work, with his vision in the offensive zone, and ability to find his teammates. I look at Jack Hughes, and that is the only argument you can make is, can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? And it's such a valid argument, because I've even been on that side. I've said and spoken about how Jack Hughes, at this point, when I look at Jack Hughes, and again, the last 2 seasons, he's missed 20 games. He's missed 40 games in the last 2 years, but he has still managed to be a point per game player. 3 years ago, when he almost played 82 games, he had 99 points, his career high. Jack Hughes is one of those players going into the season that could hit triple digits for the first time in his career. It all obviously comes down to if he can stay healthy, but he's a guy that can put upwards of 30 to 35 power play points. He can get upwards of 30 to 35 goals, maybe 100 points, again, in a really good year, which he can put up. He gets very close to 21 minutes of average ice time. Hits and blocks, doesn't really matter. He can still put up 250 shots in a healthy year, and that's what it comes down to. So I'm comfortable taking Jack Hughes now in the first round, even though years ago I wouldn't have been. Again, he needs to figure out how to really change the dynamic of his game, where he's not putting himself into some dangerous situations. And some of these injuries are a little bit fluky, sort of like Patrick Laine, but
a couple of falls.
A couple of weird falls into the boards and just running into guys. But I look at Jack Hughes going into the season. I do have a lot of belief in him, and I would still take him over a guy like his brother out west, Quinn Hughes.
Okay, I see you. I like this list. I think we're doing pretty good, considering how much, at least I myself, was all over the map with how we were going to break this down. before we did it. I think it's come together nicely, Mr. Rodin. I would throw out this. NHL.com's top 200 has Jack Hughes 20th overall. Matt Larkin has Jack Hughes 14th overall. I would put him probably back into that realm of things, but this is
to be fair, the Jack Eichel, Jack Eichel, Jack Hughes, Quinn Hughes, all of them came with an ADP, I believe, of 13. So I just put them in this order.
Okay.
I would be happy taking Jack Eichel over Jack Hughes. You know how much I really like this upcoming season with Jack Eichel and Mitch.
There's some
Marner.
interchangeable names here.
There is some interchangeable, especially through this area right now with Jack Eichel, with the Hughes brothers. We're going to come back after the break and talk about Jack Eichel and Quinn Hughes and why they fall right there in this 11th to 13th range of the first round. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip over to you, my friend, Jack Eichel. Again, these guys are interchangeable between the 11th and 13th pick, Hughes, Eichel, and other Hughes. But why do you have Eichel ahead of Jack?
Well, I think we've already covered this angle.
Yeah.
The Las Vegas Golden Knights are a very good team. They're propped up, their offense, by a really good blue line and a goaltender, Nathan Hill, who, fantasy-wise, sometimes hard to put your finger on what you would do with him, but he's very serviceable. And that means you throw in Mitch Marner into the mix of a forward group that clearly over the last couple of years has had success, and you got Jack Eichel really kind of showing why he is what he is as a first-round fantasy pick. So Hughes, Eichel, Quinn Hughes, definitely right in here around this realm. I think we need to move right on to Connor Hellebuyck because, look, Quinn Hughes, yes, the Vancouver Canucks are a team that is hard to get behind. And all of these rumors, it's funny because yesterday was a really big news day. I don't know if you saw that, Jack Hughes talking about how much he wants to play with Quinn Hughes, or the Hughes brothers just wanting to play together in general. So that's an interesting angle. Anyway, Eichel, I love this year coming up. You've spoken about him at length. His power play time and offensive production should go up big time with Mitch Marner now in the fold. Go with where you will. Connor Hellebuyck, I think, is obviously in that first round one of those things you and I went back and forth on. But I'm good to go wherever you want.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Connor Hellebuyck is a first round draft pick. And again, like we've talked about numerous times, implementing the 0G strategy, taking wingers and defensemen in the early rounds, waiting on centermen and goaltenders. If you're going to draft a goaltender in the first round, it's Connor Hellebuyck, and it really is only.
And it
Connor
should be
Hellebuyck.
Right in this slot.
And it should be right here at the number 14 spot. We've seen rankings and his ADP of being the 8th overall pick. I think that's a little bit high. I would wait later in the first round because if you have that 14th, 15th, 16th pick, you can easily draft Connor Hellebuyck and then swing right back around and pick up a guy like Mitch Marner or pick up a guy like Sam Reinhart, who we'll talk about on tomorrow's episode. For me, I like Connor Hellebuyck with that 14th overall pick. He is the best fantasy hockey goaltender in the league, 47, 12-3 record, 8 shutouts, a 925 save percentage, and a 2.00 goals against average. I mean, even if I had this pick, I would honestly take Connor Hellebuyck at this spot, even if that wasn't my initial strategy going into the draft. It just sets you up for success in those goalie categories. So a guy like Connor Hellebuyck, you can't go wrong in the first round.
I don't know how anyone could disagree with what you just said in terms of setting yourself up for success after the first goaltender. I get the 0G all day. This is the only one that I think really does steal. 47 wins last year, led the league. 63 games as well, led the league.
Big time.
Oh, how about 8 shutouts? Led the league. How about 2.00 goals against? Led the league. Hart Trophy, Vezina, Jennings. And he was bringing the fantasy love as well. You know, you and I talk a lot about sometimes your ability to win games for your team on the ice doesn't always translate into surefire first-round value. Not the case with Hellebuyck. How many positions in fantasy sports at all are you able to go this position, this guy? So I'm with you. You sold me on it. Love it. Loving the list. Let's get to the last 2 players here. I know I had Willie a little bit. I think I had Marner above Willie. And I know Kyle Connor here comes in at 15. I'm excited to talk about both. Kyle Connor, for me, on that first line with Mark Scheifele and what he's able to do when he comes off that rush and just fire that biscuit. The Winnipeg Jets propped up by Connor Hellebuyck. I think more people need to pay attention to Kyle Connor as a surefire 40-goal scorer, and those don't come around a ton, Mr. Rodin.
No, they really don't. And you know, the departure of Nikolai Ehlers, I don't think that's going to have any significant effect on a guy like Kyle Connor or even
Totally agree.
Agree. You know, he's dealt with injuries so much, and he's kind of been very inconsistent with his games. Kyle Connor just comes in and he does his job, and he does his job really well. Mm-hmm. This is 4 straight seasons. You know, he's been a 35, 40 goal scorer for the entirety of his career. There's only been 1 season where he's put up less than 30 goals, and that was in the COVID year 2020, 2021, where he put up 26 in 56 games. He is one of the best goal scorers in the league with David Pastrnak, with Leon Draisaitl, with Auston Matthews. He might not win the Rocket Richard every year, but he might be one of the most consistent players in that category. So you look at Kyle Connor, especially with his ability to now play make. He put up 56 assists last year, a career high. Can he do it again? Can he replicate that same formula? We believe he can. Winnipeg is a very underrated group, right there along with Connor Hellebuyck. They've got some absolute beauties on the blue line in Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk. 97 points this last season. Another guy that has the potential to possibly put up triple digits. However, with the last overall pick in the first round, William Nylander, again, this is based on our ADPs and both Flip and I's rankings and where they kind of came to a consensus. William Nylander cracks the first round with the last pick. 82 games played last year, 45 goals, 84 points. Again, I look at William Nylander and just the consistency of what he's been able to do over the last 5 seasons. Has missed only 1 game in the last 4 years. 3 straight seasons of 40-plus goals, 3 straight seasons of 85-plus points. So good, even strength, and just his ability now to be that offensive threat with this incredible ceiling, again, of 90 points now. He's great on the power play. He's great 5-on-5. A lot of shot volume as well. One of the most efficient goal scorers in the league right there with Kyle Connor and the rest that I just mentioned. Mm-hmm. And what does it mean without Mitch Marner in the lineup? Does that transcend his game even further? I believe it does. We got rid of the passengers. We got the real ones here in Toronto. Matthews and Nylander here to stay.
Ooh, we're already talking about passengers, eh, Steele? You and I are going to have a couple of deep breaths on this because you know your boy was already a bit fired up for this one. So, yeah, I guess I just, I don't even know what to say about the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I'm just going to try and focus on Willie Nylander here for a sec. When you go 40 goals in the show, then 40 goals, and then you throw up 45, and you also play all 82 games, Steele, I think on any other team, he would be way bigger of a quote-unquote name that people love to go after. It's almost like you don't want to give Willie his shine because of whatever you think, his Willie styles, his approach in the media. He seems very nonchalant, and to me, that's just how kind of chill he is. I think we all have played with hockey players that just, they're a little bit different, and that's what Willie is. And I think this is one of those situations where I believe Mitch will be the first player we talk about on tomorrow's episode, where I really do think we're splitting hairs here in terms of value. And you mentioned consistency. Both guys here are going to bring you 85 plus point value. they fit the mold at the end of the first round in a deep league like this, most
Exactly.
definitely. I do have also some concerns about what the power play love will be for this team. Last year, he had 12 power play goals. I see it returning to something similar this point in the season. We're just trying to give you guys the angles to arm you. Good for draft time, so you know what you're doing. I like Willie here at this spot. I may have gone with Mitchie, but he's not a Leaf anymore, so screw him. He's in the back of the bus. See you later.
See you later indeed, and see you tomorrow for round 2 of the 2025-26 Fantasy Hockey Draft. We appreciate you. We love you out there. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On NHL Podcast, because there is no offseason. We bring you the daily league-wide stories that matter the most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for round 2.
Go Bills.